there's two different main ways to go about talking to the dead, and really it's a lot more simple than people make it out to be. One of the ways is a bit more complicated just because it takes a little time to actually develop this skill. But once you know how to do that skill, they're both interchangeably very easy. I can't tell you how many people just make it way too complicated. It's just way too... So first way is they come to you. The other way, you go to them. So the first way is you're summoning them to come to you in the physical realm. So basically, you're awake, you're conscious, you're not astral projection, you're conscious. And the other way is you're going to them, you go into a very deep trance-like state, you enter the astral realm, and it feels a lot like dreaming, even though you're awake. I mean, it's that deep. Going into the astral realm means your spirit literally leaves your body, and you're literally traveling onto other planes. In this case, you're going to the spirit realm. The spirit realm is a really vast place. If you don't know how to find what you're looking for, it can be nearly impossible to find that needle in a haystack unless you know how to locate things, because it is so vast. But the biggest problem that people have isn't that. The biggest problem that people have is actually not having a strong enough tether to their body, and therefore not waking up and staying, their spirit staying away from their body. If your spirit can't get back to your body becomes a vegetable. You know, it's not good. So you need to set up something to make sure that you can come back. The way you get there is pretty simple. Basically, what I do is that there's a sacred pagan songs that are specifically designed to take you in, and then there's other songs that are specifically designed to take you out. Songs are very powerful. They influence immensely, and so if it's the right song, it is going to be so powerful that it is nearly irresistible, and so it's almost gonna force you into a trance and then force you out of that trance. So the song does pretty much everything for you, save for just a little bit that you have to do on your own. Otherwise, if you don't want to go about it that way, just getting yourself dizzy. If you ever fallen asleep, right before you fall asleep and you feel the earth kind of shift, that's what you want to feel. Because right before you fall asleep is basically the same thing that's happening right before you're going into this astral projection. I mean, that's the same kind of thing that happens. And that's why a lot of people refer to it as the dream realm, because a lot of times when we're actually asleep and when we're actually dreaming, that's where we go. So basically it's your spirit's traveling a lot of times when you're actually asleep. So now what you're trying to do is do it when you're awake. You're trying to basically dream when you're awake, but it's more than just a dream. You're literally going into the spirit realm. You're literally traveling onto a different plane of existence, and your spirit is literally leaving your body. So you do need to have that tether. You have to be grounded enough, but not so grounded that it prevents you from going in. And if you're too deep into it, you can also start to have your body affected. Like if something happens to your spirit, it can happen to your body. The very first time that I did one of these, well, maybe not one of the first times I did, it was brand new to me, I'll say that. I only had a couple times that I'd done it, and I was so new to it that I hadn't mastered this skill yet. and I made a mistake of going a little too deep into it, and actually was in a past life regression, and I got shot in the rib cage. And when I came back to the physical realm, my body, like there was pain in my side where I got shot, and that pain was not so bad that I couldn't like withstand it. It wasn't really that bad of a pain, but the pain did linger for about 2-3 days. If you have that sort of connection, you know, whatever happens to your spirit happening to your body, that's kind of not good, you know. Means you're too deep into it, you know, and I don't know exactly how far that can go. I honestly don't know. I barely felt it, but I did feel it, you know. Well, I felt it pretty strongly within the first 15-20 minutes, but basically what I'm trying to say is, I don't know how, like, if that was any worse, would it have had any actual ill effects from it? I have no idea. I just know that it's probably not good. Just a common sense, you know, sign that it's probably not good to have that happen. So, like I was saying, what most people have most trouble with is what I've actually never had trouble with. I've never had trouble with coming back because I'm what we call a light sleeper. So any tiny little thing will wake me up. I've actually asked my guides to wake me up if I don't wake up on my own, and what they'll do is my spirit guides will actually make it feel like there's some kind of bug on me. I don't know why, but that's what they choose to do, and I cannot stand that feeling, and so I wake up trying to get at the bug. But most of the time, again, it's some kind of sound that you're listening for, a word you're listening for, a song, something like that that's going to bring you back. If someone is stuck, sometimes a pagan rattle, not a baby rattle, but a pagan rattle, especially if you're physically there with them in the room, for whatever reason, that makes it even more powerful. That can bring someone back. A drum is really good for bringing someone back, as long as you got the right type of song that you're doing on the drum. But a rattle is pretty flawless. You don't really have to do any specific, you know, rhythm or anything, because a rattle, what it's designed for, no matter how you shake it, it's always going to do the same thing. It's always going to break up that really dense, heavy energy. And when someone's in it too deep and can't get back, or if they've lost their tether, that it'll break up that really dense energy, and it'll ground you, and it'll pull you back to your body. So typically that's what rattles, they ground people. So anyway, moving on to the other way that's easier, in my opinion, because you don't have to learn all of that. You don't have to worry about learning. All you have to do is know how to set up a protection, just to make sure that there's wards against anything of ill intent, anything of malice that might want to cross through, and so that only the spirits that are of pure intent can come in. Anything of malicious intent cannot cross through that boundary. You set it up, ideally, you know, so that it's set in stone, so that you don't have to do this every time. So that literally, any time that this happens, this is how I've set it up. If you choose a specific place, if you've put wards on that correctly, and you set it in stone, the wards will never go down. They'll always stay up. So you don't have to worry about redoing the spell or the ritual over and over and over and over again, because it's set in stone. It's that particular place. Now if you go to a different place, you'll have to do it again, usually. If you go to a different place, you'll have to do the same thing. But if it's that same place, then typically you don't have to set up protection every time. Again, that's a little more advanced though. That kind of protection spell is actually a lot more advanced than if you're just doing a very simple smudging or salt or something like that. Honestly, salt I don't think is strong enough. That's just my personal opinion. Some people say it or it's great, but I just don't think it's strong enough. So smudging, stuff like that, and have an actual spell along with it. Don't just walk around and like randomly smudge and be like, yep, be gone. No, you need to have an actual spell or ritual to go along with it, to make it, to really set it in stone. If you just walk around randomly smudging and saying, be gone evil spirit, whatever, it's not gonna do much, because you haven't really, you're just randomly walking around. And again, with the intent is pretty much everything. You don't have to go by a book. I wouldn't even recommend that. Just be guided. It's what we call being guided by our spirit guardians or other guides that may be teaching us, and you're listening. You have to know that basic skill of listening to your guides as to how to do that spell. If you're guided, then you cannot possibly do it wrong. There cannot possibly be any kind of gaps in it as long as you've listened properly. But again, that's a basic skill. All these things that I'm talking about have been basic skills that you need for all magic, and it is so basic. We were talking about the kind of magic that in the other video where you actually need to be born with the gift to do. You don't need a gift for this. This is so simple. And literally the summoning, finally when you set up protection and you're ready to summon them, people try to make this so complicated. It's not. Literally all you have to do is call the name of whoever you're summoning. And a lot of times that's all you need to do. But if they're not listening for whatever reason, if they're way off in the distance somewhere, then what I do is I create a magical type beacon. So it's a beacon, but it's like made with your own magic. So basically you're sending off that beacon and it travels all the way to the spirit, and it's letting the spirit know, hey, I'm trying to contact you. And eventually they're going to notice that beacon because it's going to get right in their face. But they can still choose not to come, even if that beacon is there. There's nothing that can force them to come. So to a certain degree, it's up to them. Then you have to realize, again, basic skill, very basic, the difference between what your assumptions might be. You have to take be hollow to the point where, not that you let something possess you, not that hollow, but hollow to the point where you're not actually, allowing your own thoughts, your own assumptions to muddy up the water. You have to sit there very idly and very, just listen. And a lot of us we don't have to necessarily physically see or physically hear the spirit. When I was a child, that's how I saw spirits and heard spirits, was physically, but it scared me. And so as a child, I just kind of inadvertently turned that off. And so now I can sense them physically. I can feel when they're there. And then I close my eyes, and only when I close my eyes do I actually see them. Usually. Sometimes I'll see and hear them anyway. But most of the time I just close my eyes and I can see them, and then I can hear it in my head, but I don't usually hear it audibly anymore. So it doesn't really matter how, it's just making sure that you are seeing and hearing the spirit, especially knowing who you're actually talking to is who you're actually talking to. And then it's not your own mind, trying to fill in the blanks or anything like that. That's why the astral realm is, a lot of people find it easier because it's so much it's dreamlike. It feels like you're actually there, and it's easier for people who cannot unlock that door to being able to do it in the physical realm while they're awake. That door is wide open when they're in the dream realm. So it just kind of depends on how you learn.